Okay, we're live. Awesome.
Boom.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live stream of this MEA on Streamr with the CEO of Henri, Pihkala. Thank you very much for taking time to answer some questions of the community. It's going to be great. We have a lot of questions, so
Yeah, pleasure.
I hope we have some answers.
I hope so too.
Awesome. So maybe first of all, we can maybe have like a roundup and talk about the Brubeck Testnets. How did that went from your side? And a little bit talk about those kind of things.
Yeah, for sure. So if I want to put it into one sentence, how they went is like they were much bigger than what we expected. But maybe to give a little bit longer answer. So maybe first we have to define what were the goals of the testnets, right? What were the goals from the team's perspective, and what were the goals from the community's perspective? So from our perspective as developers of the thing, we wanted the testnets to show like where it breaks, basically. Like what is the scale that it can handle, what kind of properties it has, are there bugs, is it working as intended, what kind of things we can measure from it, and so on. And this was the purpose of the testnets from our perspective. And on the other hand, we wanted to give the community a kind of taster or a kind of early glimpse of what it would look like to run Streamr nodes in a kind of mining role. Of course, we're not going to have the full token economics until the Tatum milestone next year, but we wanted to kind of already show what the mining will feel like, what it will take to run a node, how do you install it, how do you start it, what does it mean to kind of run it, how it behaves, and so on and so on. And there was this incentive program as well to reward the people who participated with some tokens, which is kind of similar. If you would have the full token economics, then there would be incentivized streams which your node can join to mine them, and you would therefore also earn tokens. So it's kind of like a simple version or a kind of mock-up version of things to come, like a sneak peek, if you will. And when we were kind of thinking about the testnets, what kind of scale or size we want to achieve, we were doing some back of the napkin math there. That okay, like the governance decision allocated 2 million data tokens to the testnets, and we thought that okay, like maybe there's 3,000 nodes or so joining, which would leave people with say $100 per node or whatever to.
Those were the first numbers
to participate. Yeah, and then what actually happened was that like 130,000 nodes participated in the testnets in total, and at the same time there was 90,000 maximum in testnet 3, which kind of exhausted the supply. So everyone who wanted to participate were able to participate there. So we expected 3,000, got 90,000. So that was a big leap for us, and it showed that okay, like it was very good for us for sure, because we were able to see like at this massive scale how it works, where it breaks, and it did break. So we achieved the goal of the testnet to see where it will start to kind of crumble. But of course, the earnings per node were kind of small in these testnets. But on the other hand, it was just a kind of glimpse of what will come. So of course, the true demand and supply will then regulate the market when it kind of really happens, whereas here we had like a fixed pool. But I was kind of amazed that so many people and nodes joined, because the market would kind of regulate that that you wouldn't join at a loss normally.
100%.
But now there was so much support and excitement from the community. I was kind of amazed at that. So very, very thankful to you all for joining, even with kind of low rewards per node.
Yes.
Which we didn't expect. Though we wanted to give you $100 per node, but a lot of folks joined. So that was really great.
The votation would maybe be also different if you didn't have like that all in mind. The first testnet we blocked at 4,000 nodes maximum who could join. The second one was around 25, 35 we blocked, I think. So yeah, it was unexpected to have that many nodes, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually have some stuff that I could show in terms of results if you guys wanna see.
With big pleasure.
We put out a blog post today, which you can find on our blog. It's kind of like some early results. It's a little rough, but there's a lot more. Like, oh man, there's such a lot of data. We have like 500 gigabytes of data from just the measurements in those test nets. So there's a lot of data. So it takes a bit of time to kind of refine them and find the interesting bits from that data. But I can show you some kind of high-level stats and then dig a little bit deeper also what was going on there. So let's see if my screen share
works
here. It should work.
Yeah, because we had it works. Awesome. So
awesome. So this same image is also in the blog. So this is kind of like a bar chart, I guess. So here you can see the number of nodes that we had simultaneously in the network. In Brubeck Testnet 1, the maximum was 5,000. First we had to cap it at 4,000, but then since things were working okay, we lifted it to 5,000. So you see it here. Then Brubeck Testnet 2, we achieved something like 30,000, 35,000, thereabouts. And then the third testnet went up to 90,000. I think what's interesting about this is that these are actually very large, very serious peer-to-peer networks already. On the side, you can see the size of the Bitcoin network, which is around 12,000 nodes, and the Ethereum network, which is 3,000 nodes. So, of course, it's not really a fair comparison, as the Bitcoin and Ethereum nodes are doing much more work than the nodes in the Streamr network at the moment and in the test nets. But this is a large network.
It shows the scalability also a lot.
It does show that, and we were the reward codes, which were the kind of test data in this network, they were being broadcasted to 90,000 nodes at a time, and that's definitely not nothing. That's quite a big thing. And in the past, there have been bigger peer-to-peer networks, like in the golden era of the BitTorrent protocol in the early 2000s, when everyone was, sharing files legally or illegally over that protocol. There was it was in the millions how many nodes they had in that network. But still, this is very, very large on every possible scale, which is exciting. Then here you can see the kind of distribution of the reward money. So this is, since there was reward codes coming out at quite steady pace, so the rewards were distributed according to how long those testnets were. So testnet 1 was 2 days, 2 full days, so 48 hours, and testnet 2 and 3 were both exactly 1 week long. So in total we had 16 full days. So testnet 1 gets also then 2 divided by 16 of the rewards, which is 12.5%, and testnet 2 and testnet 3 get equal rewards. So this is how the money is distributed. But of course, these testnets had wildly different amount of nodes, right? So even though testnet 1 had just 12.5% of all the rewards, it also had a lot less people in it compared to the other ones. So actually, those who were in testnet 1 were earning quite okay rewards, whereas testnet 3 was just totally like off the scale. There were so many people that almost no one was really earning anything. I also have here this is interesting. So this shows that a lot of people were running nodes in the cloud, but not everyone though. So it was kind of nicely decentralized in the sense that there were a lot of operators, a lot of people running nodes in their homes and smaller places, but there was also some kind of professional guys who decided to run a lot of nodes, probably by leveraging like these cloud services. So we can see that. So this is not super accurate. This is like estimated based on the IP addresses and then kind of mapping the IP addresses to the service provider with the WHOIS service. But anyway, we can get a rough idea. So we can see that one Amazon data center accounted for a third of all the nodes in testnet 3. I think this data is testnet 3 only. Alibaba was doing like almost 1/4. Then some other Amazon data center was doing 15% and so on, and then it goes down from there. So for sure, like a lot of the nodes were running in the cloud. This is good and bad. It's bad because we didn't quite get like the really rough edges of the network to show. We wanted to have a network that is not like laboratory conditions. We wanted to have a network that has a big variety of all kinds of computers behind all kinds of internet connections in all kinds of places on the planet. And we achieved that to some level, but it was dominated by nodes running in the US and China in these cloud services for sure. But it is also good from the point of view that the nodes that run in the cloud have good connectivity. So we were experiencing like really good performance and really good reliability. So one thing that we were testing in the network is that are the nodes able to form peer-to-peer connections? And this is not a trivial thing, actually, because if nodes are behind firewalls and NATs and other kind of network equipment, it's not easy to open connections peer-to-peer. But in the networks, we had like 99.9% success in the connectivity. So not only were people able to connect to the nodes that were running in the cloud services, they were also able to connect to all the other places. And we were seeing from the data that there was, even in testnet 3, which had 90,000 nodes at the same time, there was only like 200 or 300 nodes that didn't manage to create connections at all for whatever reason. So that was a really good percentage actually in there.
It's a very interesting graph indeed.
I have a lot of other stuff here. I don't know how much we want to spend on this. There's a lot of community questions waiting to be answered for sure.
First of all, maybe I can also add here, because I see that there's a lot of questions in the chat. We're gonna take a little bit of time at the end of the live. I think it's gonna be like maybe 1 hour or something like this, 45 minutes. And after we will be able to answer also a couple of questions directly from the chat. But we do have a lot of questions also from Discord, from the community also directly. So, of course, one of the biggest questions that were asked the last weeks and that everyone wants to know is, okay, how much value does my reward codes have? And this is something very, very actually difficult to answer, because it was not just, okay, they all have maybe the same value, or maybe yes. There was a lot of work from the network team as well. So maybe we can have like a little bit more of more information about the reward valuation also.
Yeah, I can explain how it works. So you saw basically also already this.
Important.
distribution of how the money was divided per each test net, right? So now we can drill down how the money was distributed inside each test net. So there was a couple of different methods that we were kind of playing around with small differences, how to kind of compute the rewards. They didn't really make much of a difference in the end, and all can be argued that they are fair, but then it's just a matter of kind of flavor how to pick. So how we now did it is that basically like each reward code is equally valuable across all the test nets, which gives us this distribution that I was already showing. Then inside that test net, basically, we have a number of claims. So if there's one reward code gets published and then it's claimed by 90,000 people, then that's 90,000 claims, basically. What we could do is divide each reward code that, okay, this has like certain value, this reward code, and then we just split it by whoever claimed it. But that created quite noisy and unexpected results, in the sense that there were sometimes problems in the network, and there could have been reward codes that were only claimed by 100 nodes, even though there was like 5,000 nodes in the testnet, especially in testnet 1. So I think, and then the other approach would be to consider each claim to be equally valuable. So you kind of count how many total claims there were during the testnet and assign equal value to all of those, and that resulted in a little bit more equal distribution, which we found to be more fair. And that's what we basically went with. So each claim is same value inside one testnet, but the claim in testnet 1 has different value from a claim in testnet 2 and a claim in testnet 3, as there were a very different number of nodes participating in that. And here in this chart, you can see basically, this is like a histogram. So you can see the distribution of earnings across all the test nets in this one. Can you see my cursor? Yes, you can.
Yes, we can.
Okay,
perfect.
So we can see that the big bulk of the earnings were rather small, and then there's a bit of a tail where there's a small amount of high earners who happened to be somehow managed to claim all the codes, despite the little bit shakiness that we had in testnet 1 and 2, whereas testnet 3 worked very well in the end. So we can see that most of the nodes are here in the 15 data region and the 10. So basically per node people earned a couple of bucks, which is much less than what we kind of thought would happen though. But still people joined, and of course everyone was able to calculate roughly like how much they can earn by taking the 2 million data tokens and seeing how many nodes there are in the network. So
there are smart people outside.
Yes, so it's of course everyone's decision whether to participate or not. But in this case, I would argue that the rewards per node ended up rather small. So there was very strong kind of oversupply in this market of oversupply of service to the network, whereas the demand or the reward pot was fixed at 2 million tokens. But here you can see then per testnet, all of them are scaled to the same range on the y-axis. So the testnet 1 chart doesn't really show you the numbers very well. Sorry about that. But you can see that there was like
a couple thousand maybe.
Yeah, probably I would say like if 5,000 was the total in testnet 1, so maybe, a third of them are here, a third of them are here, and a third of them are here in the low earners range. So these high earners that you can also see here in the old testnets, this very small amount of nodes that got more tokens than others, they were guys who were there kind of across all the testnets, which is as expected for sure. And then here you can see the distribution of the other ones. In testnet 2, there is a little bit of a distribution there as well, because it was testnet 1 was kind of random who got in because we had to put the cap, but testnet 2 was also random in the sense that it didn't work very well. So there was a bit of randomness, like people were able to join, but they might drop out, then come back in. So there wasn't a lot of nodes that were able to get all the codes in testnet 2. So that's why you see a little bit of kind of wide distribution there. Whereas in testnet 3, it's quite clear that almost everyone got almost all of the codes. So it's very kind of centered around these earnings in here, and it did work a lot better than testnet 2. And testnet 1 worked okay because we had to put the cap on there.
Okay, that's perfect. Do we have another graph that we can have a look on for this, or?
Yeah, there is actually. So if you want to keep on the topic of earnings, so here you can see a kind of scatter plot. Every node is a dot on this. Maybe, I don't know if you can see it really well or not. We can try and scale it up a little bit.
Yeah.
The pixels maybe disappear when it's kind of sized down, but you can basically interestingly see here that, okay, the top earners are here in this corner. There's not that many of them. And you can also see the different testnets here as kind of these ranges or kind of angles in here. So this angle, kind of this type of range that you would get is from testnet 1, and then this angle here is testnet 2, and this one is testnet 3. And so if you were in all of the testnets, you kind of travel, you can imagine that your node kind of travels this bit, and then this bit in reverse order, and ending up here. And if you were only in a testnet 2 and 3, then you would kind of end up somewhere in here. Whereas you were only in testnet 1, you'd end up here. Only testnet 2, you'd end up here, and so on. So it does show where the kind of gravity is, and it is in fact in here, where most of the nodes were in a mixture of testnet 2 and 3, and not able to quite claim all the maximum of codes, but a quite good percentage of those, and it's basically the same what is shown.
So if we can talk in numbers, I guess when we see at least testnet 3, most of the people are between maybe the 15-20 data tokens, if I see that right. I think we can't give a perfect number, that's normal, but we see that most of the people are really around that kind of number.
And we also we have this stats API that some of the community guys have been developing against to build these dashboards where you can, paste your node address and get some stats out of there. So there's also now an API that shows you your earnings, so kind of the result of the testnet. I think this one awesome guy that was developing the dashboard already added something there like in one day, so that was awesome.
Exactly, someone from the community, and we will be able to also post that link directly in the description for everybody later on. maybe moving a little bit more further, I think we have all the numbers. I think at least maybe if there's more question about it, we can maybe answer them later on. But
yeah. And maybe to mention that we're going to make another blog post with more of like numbers and stats. It's going to be something like the Brubeck Testnets in numbers, and all these amazing charts that we have here will probably be featured in that
and explained maybe
in that blog. Yeah, hopefully explained as well.
Yeah, we will see, of course. Okay, perfect. Now also we have other also questions, but maybe still if we can talk about those kind of data tokens that people have earned, at least the codes.
Yes.
Do we know today already on what kind of network is going to be distributed, the tokens?
Yeah, so from the beginning, it's been clear that it's not going to be Mainnet, right? So we have to send tokens to 130,000 addresses. So doing that would cost like something like 1.5 million in gas to distribute. So
almost the same amount in data tokens.
Yeah, so if there's 2 million data tokens, which is worth like $300,000. So yeah, it's like five times the cost of the tokens themselves to send it on mainnet. So yeah, we're not going to do that. So we've been looking at what side chains there are, and I think it's a good part of. I'll take one step back. So we've been discussing like what the multi-chain strategy of Streamr is, and how do we make the Streamr systems like the network and the marketplace, and of course like interacting with the DeFi stuff and everything, DEXs and so on. How do we kind of bring that more into the picture, and what chains we want to kind of target and onboard, and how the whole system can kind of work across different chains. And this like distributing the testnet rewards is one good way to kind of unlock a new chain for the Streamr ecosystem. And we've been looking at Polygon for this. Of course, there's others, and we're going to go on all of them eventually. But I think like now is time to start with Polygon, go on that one, see how it works, maybe deploy some of the software in there. You could have, like a Streamr marketplace on Polygon, or deploy data unions there, or whatever. And where we currently are with that is we're kind of we've been working on bridging the token over. So first we deployed the token. The Polygon guys did their thing, added the mapping there, and it didn't work out when we tried it. It actually just burned the tokens. So don't try it yet. You will burn your tokens. So now it's been fixed, or is in the process of being fixed. So very, very close to kind of getting things rolling with the Polygon chain. And I think that's where we are gonna also distribute the rewards if no further surprises come up, which I don't expect any further surprises. So what we're going to do in the token reward distribution is we're going to directly send the tokens to the addresses of each node. And we're also going to send a little bit of the native coin, the Matic coin, to allow people to make a transaction in there. So you can actually, do something with those tokens, like move them to a DEX and trade them, or whatever you want. So you're going to get a tiny amount of Matic as well, like worth like 1 cent or something. But since transactions are very cheap on Polygon, then you can still make like at least a handful of transactions with that small amount of the native coin in there as well. And when will this happen? So as soon as we get the bridge working, that is the requirement to get there. And the contracts and the scripts for doing the airdrop are ready. So if we don't start it this week, then next week it will happen.
And I think it's sorry, go ahead.
It will also take a little bit of time. So when we press the button, it will start. But sending stuff to 130,000 people, it will take probably several days of time. So we start it and then it runs, doom, 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 and then it ends, and that's when we can say that, okay, rewards have been distributed. So
perfect. But I think it's very good to mention, because a lot of people were also wondering why it takes maybe that so much time actually to also just to distribute all those tokens. But it's because there's work, the bridging and stuff. So yeah.
Okay. And the landscape is kind of changing all the time in the sidechain and L2 space. So 6 months ago or 9 months ago, we were kind of we launched the Data Unions 2.0 framework on the XDAI chain, and thinking that, okay, the XDAI chain is like one of the only chains that like really have a bit of a track record and are working, and we were expecting a little bit more projects and DeFi stuff to onboard there, but maybe it didn't really take off. Then Polygon came and took some of the market share, and there was Binance Smart Chain, and now there's the L2 stuff like Arbitrum and Optimism happening and so on. So this space is constantly evolving, and wherever you go, it will be like a little bit old-fashioned in 6 to 9 months. So that's why we've been working on this multi-chain strategy to kind of make sure that whenever there's a new place to be, like the hot new nightclub in the crypto land, we'll be able to be there as well for the Streamr stuff, and also provide liquidity on dexes or whatever is needed to kind of kickstart those branches of the ecosystem.
That's great. Yeah, I think that's really something that people are looking for today. So really awesome.
Yeah.
Also, maybe moving forward, because if I think all the questions are quite answered, of course, now for the distribution as well. Everything is going to be announced in Discord in announcements directly. So if people want to know exactly the date and when it's going to be announced, just maybe have a look on Discord. We will also announce that on Telegram directly. But okay, that's great. I see in the chat also there's a lot of people who are saying, I'm still running a node, running a node.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for this. This is really awesome. I think the network team needs some people running nodes. Maybe we can, because a lot of questions were also asked, can we still run nodes? Why do we have to run nodes at this moment? And is it really useful for the network team today? Can we maybe have like a clarification on those kinds of information?
Sure. Absolutely. So it is useful, yes. So even though there's not like these paid reward codes like there were during the testnet periods, we are constantly sending there, like the same process is continuing kind of without rewards. So we're all the time measuring the latencies and the delivery rates in the network. So if it's not too much trouble for you to keep that stuff running, then please keep it running. But of course, you don't have to. Like, it's a free world. You can do whatever you want. So you can keep them running, or you can shut them down. That's fine. And for the Brubeck mainnet, we want to replicate something kind of similar, so that there would be an incentive mechanism for running nodes in there, either for research purposes like we had in these test nets, or maybe we can add like other incentivized streams that are actually interesting content in the network under that kind of incentivized umbrella. But we have to find like the sweet spot there, like to avoid trying to skip ahead. Like really, that the mechanics are coming in the Tatum milestone. So, but yeah, we can talk a little bit more about what the Brubeck mainnet will look like. I think there was some questions about that.
There's a lot of questions indeed about mainnet, so this is really important. But I just also wanted to mention that there's still 3,500 nodes running at this moment, and this is really just awesome because those numbers are still higher than we actually expected in the beginning of the testnets.
This is what we thought we would get.
Like the highest point.
This is what we thought.
So really amazing.
These lazy nodes that people have just forgotten running somewhere, they are actually now making up much of what remains of the testnet. So that's kind of amazing.
Exactly. So really a big up to the community for this. So yeah, of course, now the question is, we're having a lot of questions about when will be the mainnet. This is, of course, something that a lot of people are looking forward, also in the community. So for the Q4 on the roadmap, for the moment, it's mainnet should be launched. What can we expect for the mainnet? What is the big things that we should expect?
Yeah. So what does the launch really mean? So it means, first of all, that the versions of the software kind of come out of our beta stage. So they become kind of official ones that are expected to work, right? So that is one component of the launch. And the other component is that we're still trying to fit one big improvement into the release, which is the starting to use the on-chain stream registries instead of the centralized API, where the stream information was still in those test nets. So if we can fit that in, then it's kind of like the full Brubeck release as we envisioned it originally. It would be great to reach that stage, because it really marks the actual full decentralization. That there's no more API, no more centralized server, no more nothing. Everything is based on smart contracts, and then the Streamr peer-to-peer network and its rules. So that would be great. It's a bit ambitious, so we might end up in a situation where we need to decide, okay, do we kind of launch it this year without the on-chain registries, or do we launch it early next year with the on-chain registries? But let's see. The goal is to launch it this year. But if it's, don't kill me if it's a little bit in January, because I would really like to get this improvement in. Because we can also do it later, but when we do it later, then it's a kind of breaking change. So then the earlier versions of the client libraries and so on, they're not going to work anymore with the updated version of the Brubeck network. So let's see. And maybe the third component of Brubeck launch is okay, what kind of incentives can we have there? And some people noticed that there had been on the website roadmap, there was this line on Brubeck saying something like staking required for use of the network or something like that. This was a kind of this was a goal of ours, and we're still going to pursue that goal for sure. But it wasn't really accurate, so I took it out of there. Sorry about that. Maybe I surprised some people in a negative way. It's my fault. It was me.
Everything was explained.
It was me. So yeah, what I would want to do there, obviously, like I mentioned, we can't skip ahead. So we can't ship Tatum on the Brubeck milestone, because we really need to implement the token economics properly for Tatum. But in Brubeck, we can have incentive mechanisms that are kind of similar to what we had in these test nets, but running longer. So we'd have an ongoing process, ongoing supply of tokens being distributed to people who participate in the incentivized streams. Maybe there's just these kind of research streams that we had in the test nets, or maybe there's other ones as well. I think it's all possible. So you could see of it kind of a little bit similar than the test nets were, but going on for a year or until Tatum, basically. So we could have that kind of process running. But I would make two changes to it. So one of it would be that there would be more rewards, obviously, and over a longer time period. So that requires a governance approval, because any minting of new tokens, any change in the supply inflationary mechanism, which is obviously where the reward tokens can come from, is subject to decision by the DAO. So I can't just go and mint tokens. It's not possible.
It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that, which is good. You don't want it to work like that.
100%. The community, the holders can really vote and choose if it's a good decision or not.
Yeah, I think that would be a good thing to pursue. And another kind of technical change or token economical change I would do there is exactly to add like a simple staking thing there. I don't mean delegation, which comes in Tatum, that someone can kind of stake on somebody else's node, but so that the nodes can stake on themselves, which is kind of the underlying kind of primary concept in staking. And what it could look like in Brubeck is that, or maybe I start with the why. Why add this? So we saw in the test nets that there was a lot of nodes. There was too much nodes compared to the market mechanics. So there was very strong oversupply of nodes to the test nets. But joining was kind of free. Free in quotes, maybe because maybe some people got some paid for some virtual machines on the cloud or whatever. But basically it was free in the sense that the nodes themselves didn't have to put down any stake. They didn't have to put down tokens to earn tokens, right? So it becomes kind of vulnerable for some people trying to minimize the effort that is needed to join. And then again, to try and run a lot of nodes and grab a larger share of the rewards, which was kind of okay in the test nets because they were short term and experimental, and they showed that okay, this can be done professionally as well. I can run like thousands of nodes and no big deal. That was cool, but for the longer term network, I would kind of try to regulate it so that it becomes a little bit more expensive kind of to join, so that the nodes will have to put some tokens down, and then the rewards would kind of earn them a yield on those tokens. So that and this is also good from a token mechanical or token economical perspective, that someone who joins, they really need to have a stake in the ecosystem. They need to be a token holder as well. And if they want to run a lot of nodes and earn a lot of money or a large share of the rewards, then they also need to have a lot of tokens to put down. And this is what everybody wants, because it shows that they they have the project's best interest at heart, because they're carrying the same risk as others. Exactly. Participating in the ecosystem. So this is really good, and I think it could be done with quite small improvements, so it doesn't eat up a lot of our development team's time to establish this, as opposed to like everything that we do. Like one important thing to understand is that everything extra that we build for Brubeck is going to be kind of throwaway stuff for Tatum, because in Tatum we put the real, smart contracts and the sponsors and the bounty agreements and the delegators in there. So all of that will be, and this kind of temporary thing that we build for Brubeck that's what it is. It is temporary. So I wouldn't put like many months of time to make like this token game for Brubeck, even if people kind of want it and are excited about it, and I'm excited about it as well. But like all the work is then it takes time. So 100%. I think the golden path in there is to make exactly what I described there. And then work on the Tatum stuff next when we reach this milestone. So it'll be great.
And so if I may ask, so this is not something, do we already have like an idea about when we will be able maybe to vote? Is this something that we know?
Yeah.
Or...
So we've been super busy with the testnets and the milestone, as everyone can probably imagine. So kind of taking the ball on organizing like governance round and writing those proposals has been a little bit now second priority, so apologies for that, but there's a lot of good ideas, and it's just a matter of organizing it. So I'll just have to send a message like, okay, let's organize a governance round now, and we invite, of course, everyone to also submit those proposals. So I think what we do is say that, okay, now there's like 2 weeks window where you can submit proposals to the DAO, and then we vote, right? So there will be a kind of call for proposals, and that can happen basically anytime. Like, let's start it now. Okay, officially started. There's now a call for proposals ongoing, and so in the next couple 2 to 3 weeks, we want to get some proposals in, and then we vote.
Okay, great. Awesome.
I would say.
Awesome. I do have like a couple other questions, so maybe we can go to the next one. So this is awesome because I think it's really important, I think, to use this DAO and to be able to find a solution for the mainnet. This is something very exciting also for the community. They're really waiting for something. So I can't wait to see also what kind of proposal it will be, and if the people will come to vote and give their opinion at least on this.
Yeah, the main tricky question will be like, what's the inflation rate? There's a wild variety of inflation rates that different projects and protocols have. Some of them are minting like 20% new tokens per year or whatever, and I think we don't want to go overboard with that. So a modest inflation rate that's kind of proven by existing societies, like 2% per year or something, would probably be like more in the kind of ballpark.
That was also the goal of the SIP3. Those tokens are here really for the long term. They're not here for a couple of years. It's really for the long term. Maybe we'll never use all those tokens, and it's not a bad thing.
Well, it's up to you all. Mm-hmm. I mean, if somebody puts a proposal that let's mint 300 million new data tokens and place them. I don't know. If
it's worth it, it's worth it. yeah. It depends on the proposal.
Airdrop them to all Dogecoin holders or whatever. We can do it. It's up to you, really, but I don't think it's smart.
Yeah. There's a possibility that the vote is more no than yes at that moment.
Could well be.
Okay, we also have a question from the community, knowing, of course, when the mainnet's going to be launched. I think it was awesome to see also those graphics just before, because we see that there was a lot of cloud mining. Will it be more decentralized when the mainnet's going to be launched, or not really?
Yeah, well, yes. The testnets already were a lot more decentralized than the previous milestone network, Korea, which is basically totally centralized, because we would run all the nodes and then all the applications would just connect to the nodes that we run. And in the Brubeck testnets, everyone was running nodes. So it's a big leap. This milestone definitely marks the decentralization of the network, and also how applications that use the network also become nodes in the network by design. So it's kind of like automatic process of decentralization. But there is still in the test nets, like I mentioned, there were still centralized components. And one of them is the API that holds the registry of streams and permissions, which means basically like what streams exist and what are the kind of permissions for them. And this is moving on chain, hopefully with the mainnet launch, if this ambitious plan of including it will work out. So yes, it will be a lot more decentralized than before. It will in fact be fully decentralized. And there's still some utilities like the trackers, for example, that kind of act as semi-centralized points in the operation of the network. Of course, the trackers can be decentralized by having different parties run them, which is fine. But if you want to go like even more decentralized and have even one less kind of point of failure in the system, then you can go trackerless. It's also possible and something we're researching. But yeah, now we're getting a little bit technical again. So it's a huge leap in the decentralization of the system.
This is really what we're looking for also. More decentralization, more security. So
yeah, and there will be no one that can shut it down. That's like in Korea, in the previous milestone, I could go and shut it down, right? I can go and press the button, but in Brubeck, there is no button anymore. There's nothing. Exactly. There's nothing to shut down. There just isn't. the best I can do is shut down my own use cases and my own nodes. So if I'm sending something to the networks, like some demo stream or whatever, yeah, I can shut that down. But it doesn't affect the rest of the network at all.
It is much better for the people who are building on top of Streamr. So
yeah, it's amazing. You're in control, right? That's the promise. Yeah.
Are we going to also have like a user interface for the broker nodes? Is this something?
Yes, but not yet. So it's something that we're going to do for Tatum for sure, because in Tatum there's a lot more things that you can do in terms of like mining and running the broker node, whereas in the testnet and probably the Brubeck mainnet, it's kind of like, okay, there is only this one stream that is incentivized, and I'm just going to join that stream, and there's nothing to choose really. And nothing to configure, and that's also how we wanted to keep it for the testnets, to make it easy for people. So you just download it, start it, it's ready to go. No configuration needed. But the more choices you need to make, the harder it kind of becomes. One interface to look at your node, of course, is the Network Explorer, and that's kind of how we thought about it. That okay, you can kind of access the information of your node through the Network Explorer, and maybe the same idea will also kind of carry on to Tatum. So basically, like the stuff you can see for your own node, you can also see for everybody else's node, because it's fully transparent and all the data is public. So that's one thing. But of course, then configuring your node would be kind of nice to have like a local interface. You start your node, you point your browser to localhost some port, and then you get some kind of interface for like an admin interface to your node.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I hope we manage to do that, but definitely only in Tatum and not in Brubeck yet.
Perfect. I guess we already answered that kind of question, but if I can like put the question very simple, like the most of the people are asking the same: are we able to stake? Can we do some staking in the mainnet?
Yes. So now we have to define staking. So can you put down tokens to earn a yield on those tokens? Then yes, you can if you run a node. So it's kind of like staking in Ethereum 2.0 or something. You have your node, put a stake, the node is doing its thing and earning some rewards. It's very similar to participating in a proof of stake blockchain from that point of view. Then many systems have also delegation. So if Anthony is running a node and I don't want to run a node, I just want to lend or stake some tokens on Anthony's node, then that's called delegation or delegated staking, and that's coming in Tatum, but not in Brubeck yet. So it's more like Anthony can put a stake on his node, and I can put a stake on my node and earn a share of the rewards, and the share of rewards that can be earned is dependent on the size of the stake. So if you stake more, you earn more. So you can think of it as some kind of APY percentage then. And what will that APY be? Well, it depends on the size of the inflation rate that you guys decide in the governance proposal. So yeah, if you want to earn more, then you have to inflate more as well.
Okay, great. I have here still a couple maybe questions that we will be able to maybe answer even a little bit more quicker. There's a lot of questions, but I really tried to take all the questions from the community so we can also answer them all.
Awesome.
So if I can just ask you first of all, for the hardware, what do we actually need? Is there like high demand hardware to run a node?
No. As you noticed in the testnet, it runs on any old box, Raspberry Pis, really small stuff. It's not intensive at all, especially like for this low volume streams like the testnet reward stream. When we get to Tatum, then your box will want to kind of max out its capabilities. So if you have a bigger box, you'll just be able to join more streams and handle more volume and earn more tokens. Whereas if you have a small box, you can do what the small box is good for. So it's like the workload is not static; it adjusts to how powerful your hardware is.
Mm-hmm. We had a lot of people running some nodes with quite amazing, actually, old computers.
It was amazing to see that kind of node contest things. And congrats to the winners of that one. It was really fun.
Exactly. Creating nodes, can we do it more safely than using a VPS?
So maybe we need to add a bit of background here. So okay, you have different types of machines, and then you can have virtual machines inside the physical machine, right? And when we talk about security, like there's no obvious way to kind of attack your system if it runs the Streamr node. It doesn't expose anything like that. But what you want to be careful about is that you don't want to compromise your private key. And the private key is in the config file. So keep your config file safe. And whether you run it on a dedicated hardware or in a virtual machine, that doesn't really matter. The most important thing is that you prevent any unauthorized parties from accessing your disk, right? And if it's a virtual machine, it's still on the same disk, right? Mm-hmm. So prevent physical access to the machine. Like don't leave it outside unguarded.
Better not.
yeah, and lock your door and
yeah.
So on. And of course on the internet, don't let unauthorized parties, don't allow them to SSH to your machine or whatever. So normal security practices are enough, like as you would do anyway, right? Mm-hmm. Any of your computers, you don't want anybody else to access. So same goes for the Streamr nodes.
I agree, and I think it's very, very good to add, because we have a lot of people who are maybe not still new actually with computers. So there's a lot of things happening in the world of cryptocurrencies, and it's always very useful to be very careful with everything. We have a lot of people also trying to get into your computer, so even the basic stuff is very important to be careful.
Yeah, and that's always the rule. Keep your private key safe. In wallet software, it's usually encrypted by protecting it with a password. But in the case of Streamr nodes, it's kind of just plain text in the config file at the moment, which isn't great. But on the other hand, you don't have to be there to enter a password every time you start your node, which would be kind of inconvenient. So we can add that if you want, but it kind of makes running a node harder if it needs you to be there when it starts, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
There's already a question that has been answered, but will people be able to run multiple nodes in the mainnet? So the answer is yes.
Yes. So, like in incentivized broker nodes, you can run multiple, but the ability of those nodes to earn would be dependent on the stake, and probably the stake is just like amount of tokens that you send to your node's address. So we don't even need for this simple staking kind of like a smart contract or anything really. You just send tokens to your node, and then the reward system will see it. So yeah, you can run many nodes, but be prepared to put down some tokens as well. And of course, like it's not just broker nodes. Like in Brubeck, like almost everything is a node. Like if I make a website that shows some real-time data from the Streamr network, like the Streamr website, for example, it shows those metrics and token price and whatever, that user coming to the website is actually a node in the network. So the node runs in your browser and accesses data from the peer-to-peer network. So nodes are not just these miners that are there for incentives, but actually every user and every application is also a node in the network.
Perfect. There's a lot of questions about the updates as well for the nodes. The last version that we are having at this moment, is this something that we can use for the mainnet, or will there be more updates when the mainnet's going to be launched?
There will be. So
Okay.
The mainnet will kind of be a continuation of the last testnet. So testnet 3 is kind of the future mainnet, right? So we'll just change label, like okay, now it's the mainnet, right? But there will be new versions for sure. The current versions work. You can still run nodes. It will participate in this non-incentivized testing process that we're running. But in order to mine the mainnet rewards, you definitely have to update. And also, if we manage to put in this on-chain registry update, then that will also create the need to update to a newer version.
Okay, perfect. We're going to go to the last questions that we had from the community. After that, we will be able to answer a couple of questions in the live chat. If there's other questions, then when will we be getting the data tokens? That was already answered. So a very fun question actually. So as most of the people also saw, we had a distribution of some NFTs that we had. The designer Stuart has created 35 different NFTs with two different actually. Very fun and very awesome NFTs, to be honest. It was gladly distributed to the community, to people who were very active, also to a couple community heroes who helped us out. So the question is actually, will there be more NFTs in the future?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
I think it's a fun way to reward people, and of course NFTs are now like all the hype around it. So it's a good tool for us as well to reward people, and it was amazing to get Stuart on board for this. And especially like rewarding community heroes and other kind of super supporters of ours. I think it's a really good tool for that.
Great, awesome. Okay, so I think we answered all the questions from the community. So this is really awesome. Is there something, first of all, maybe that you would like to add that you think it's still also important maybe to know that we didn't talk about today, about the Brubeck mainnets or testnet that we didn't share about from you?
No, I think we covered it quite thoroughly even. So if someone's watched this far, then congratulations, you've heard it all. I would say.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm just gonna go a little bit more up to see because there was in the beginning also a couple of questions. So about the date, so we answered most of them. I'm just gonna take a couple seconds. Sorry about that.
Sure.
Did you think to or plan to expand the team to speed up the work?
Well, of course, we're all the time considering it, but there's overhead. So especially what the network guys are doing is kind of deep. It's kind of complicated. So it's not a simple matter of just adding more hands to do it. After some point, it doesn't go faster if you add more. So you're kind of getting diminishing returns for that. So we're quite a stable team size. We're a kind of experts only team that are working on it. And also if we increase our spending, then we also decrease our runway. So we're also going to then run out of funds faster. So I think the current size of the team is good. What we can do is kind of switch resources a little bit. So, if there's some function that is not needed that much, then we can kind of change that to or repurpose things or swap things rather than grow as such, which allows us to calibrate towards towards new challenges. So just to give an example, so there's a lot of builders now in the ecosystem, and Matthew Fontana, who's running the ecosystem team, is kind of busy with chatting to everyone who's doing stuff in there and so on. So we've been able to kind of move some people to help out with that from other functions. So I think that works out, but it's constantly like reshaping the team towards the future challenges.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Can we get more detailed explanation on this on Stream Registry?
Yeah, it's kind of simple thing. Really, it's kind of like a database. Like what is there, right? Right now, the Stream registry is in a database that we run, so it's centralized, and there's the API that you can use to access it. So you can do stuff like search for streams, or when you log into the core UI, you get a list of your own streams, and that information comes from the Stream registry. So it's kind of a stream database. And in the future, it will be on chain. That's the change, and it will be queried not from a centralized API, but it will be queried either via the graph, which is like a indexing service for smart contracts, or from the smart contract directly. Mm-hmm. In some cases.
Okay, perfect. Quite of a. Can you guys please confirm that you're not trading your own token? And this is the last question that we are having on the chat.
You mean like actively trading it or what?
Yeah, it's very. That's why it's not really a question. I guess I don't know. I don't understand it perfectly.
No, we're not trading our own token.
Yeah.
Not at all. Of course, there's the treasury. Company has a treasury. Team members have some tokens. For sure, some people have sold some tokens during the last 4 years. That's for sure. But we're not trading in that sense. We're not buying and selling or whatever. Mm-hmm. That I can confirm. Most projects do market making, but the purpose of market making is more like providing liquidity and not being like directional in the markets in any way. So it's more like a service.
Okay, perfect.
Or providing the project does provide liquidity. For example, in Uniswap, we put some data tokens there and Ether, and you can trade, right? So are we trading? Well, kind of, I guess, because we are in the pool, right? So the pool is trading, right? So these kind of things we are doing. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Someone has to put some liquidity so people can indeed trade. For example, also on the XDAI, not long time ago.
In fact, this is the case.
Okay, I see. Yeah, perfect.
But anyone can do the same, of course. And please do provide liquidity.
100%. Okay, great. I think we have answered all the questions. Of course, if there are still questions, people can always put those questions in the comments on this video also later on. It will be posted directly on YouTube, so don't hesitate to post or ask any questions. Of course, people can always come on Discord. We're very active on Discord and ask there directly all the questions. We have a great community as well who answers a lot of questions directly. So awesome. Henri, thank you very much for your time for today. It was really awesome to be able to answer all those questions. I think it was also important for a lot of people, so I hope they will be very happy with this. Thank you very much for your time for today, and I guess we will be able to talk together very soon again for our next video.
Yeah, for sure. Especially if the governance round comes about, then we'll probably do another AMA like we usually do for the governance stuff. Yeah,
that's
for sure.
Awesome. Okay, great. Yeah. Then I wish you great evening, and I'll see you very soon. And thank you very much to the whole community. Bye-bye,
Thanks, everyone.